I feel like normally things start to get a little bit dull during this mid-game part of the show, but this season, these episodes just keep getting better and better as they progress. The players are fighting, the tribals are hot, the tension is thick. And yet, it's still kind of hard to tell who our finalists are going to be. There's obviously going to be a lot to talk about in this episode, but before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button below if you have not already, just so you can stay tuned as we continue through with this season. Now, let's get started. So this episode kicks off with literally everyone pissed off at Q because of his antics during the last tribal. Us fans have been speculating and debating his behavior back and forth all week. Some people thought that he genuinely wanted to quit the game there, and others, like myself, thought that maybe this was a ploy or part of some bigger plan that he had in mind. But in this episode, we find out immediately that Q actually does stand for quitter.
I felt guilty for screwing up everybody's game, and in my everyday life, when I make a mistake, I raise my hand and I own up to it. So I tried to take the heat and kind of fall on my own sword.
I gotta say, I was a little disappointed in his answer. I was just hoping there was some bigger, messy, strategic plan going on behind all this. But at least now, I'm almost certain that Q will not be winning this season at all. He's just lost way too much respect by this point. I mean, his two closest allies, Tiffany and Kenzie, now want absolutely nothing to do with him at all. I mean, Tiffany's out here cussing his ass out for snitching about her idol, as she should.
If you run around calling yourself my #1 ally, why is you spilling the beans about an idol that I possibly could have used to protect your dumb ass? Because you couldn't have your way? Are you stupid? Are you dumb?
But as crazy as all of this is, y'all, I can't lie, it is still wildly entertaining, and Q is still my favorite casting this season by far. Also, after that last vote, Hunter has now found himself on the very bottom of the tribe. He was left out of the vote, and his comp status makes him a huge threat in the game, so now he is definitely a target out there. However, I did think it was weird that the main person leading the charge against him seemed to be Q, of all people. I feel like it's weird coming from Q because Q should want to keep Hunter in the game as a shield, right? Because after Hunter, Q was probably the next biggest target. But at the same time, Hunter does have an idol that nobody knows about right now, so it would appear that he's safe, right? There is just a lot of tension and honestly malice in the air as the group heads into this next immunity challenge. The comp itself is a pretty standard obstacle course, nothing really new here. Everyone is slowly eliminated until only Hunter and Charlie remain at the end. It is yet another showdown of endurance, and last time Hunter was looking super duper comfortable up there, and so I was really thinking that Hunter would easily be able to take home the win again. But as we see, it is Charlie who emerges victorious. This is cute for him, and I have to say Charlie has been looking very, very good in these edits recently. He hasn't really led a lot, but we're still given his opinion and point of view a lot, which I think is important. Back at camp, Q can sense that he's in trouble, so now he is scrambling back to regain that control. I guess he changed his mind about wanting to quit the game because now it's not on his own terms. Child, I could not tell you what goes through that man's mind, but he is funny though. Just please don't take him too seriously, and he's funny as hell, I promise. He's out there trying to rekindle things with Kenzie, which just blows up in his face.
Oh, Q, thanks so much for telling me about how you left me out of everything, but since you told me... Oh, Q, thanks, like let's buddy up. No. Q, no one wants to work with you right now.
This was so bad yet so good at the same time. Now we do get this interesting moment here where Kenzie decides to make a big move and throw Tiffany's name out there. Tiff's in a good spot right now, she has an idol, and she wouldn't see it coming. And while I totally get wanting to flush out all the idols, I just don't know if this is the right move for Kenzie right now because she would be losing yet another number and she just lost Q. Not only that, but depending on how Kenzie plays this, she could also lose Tiffany's respect here and therefore lose her vote. Betraying your allies is totally part of the game, but I also think that it's important to be a little choreographed in how you do it. We do see Kenzie pitch this idea to a few people, which is kind of scary because it could easily get back to Tiffany. And this is where I'm starting to see Kenzie's game unravel just a little bit for the first time. This could easily be a game winning move or a game losing move depending on how it plays out. I've been flipping back and forth between Kenzie and Tiff as possible winners for a while now, and this just makes it even harder to choose. The last person who is on the chopping block this time around is Hunter. Even though his social strategy isn't that strong, his comp ability makes up for it, so he's still a huge target out there. And he just barely lost this last immunity, so I completely understand people wanting to take this time to take advantage and get him out ASAP. Now, Hunter does have an idol, but he's just been crafty enough to keep this a secret the whole time. I mean, he has not told a single soul up until like the last minute. He actually lets people in on this so late that people automatically assume that he's lying about it, which honestly wouldn't really be much of an issue as long as he actually plays the idol. The group then heads off into Tribal, where things are immediately heated between Q and Tiffany yet again. She is still justifiably mad and she's not gonna let it go, which I don't blame her for, so now it's up and it's stuck.
This story where he told everybody I had an idol to save my game was total bullcrap because he was mad that I didn't want to vote for Venus because that wasn't a big enough shield.
The vote was never Venus.
See, these the lies, Jeff. These the lies. He been pushing Venus, just like you were pushing Venus this morning. You were pushing Hunter name.
They kind of go back and forth like this for a while, which is just eventually going to lead the whole Tribal into going live. During this whole saga, you can see Hunter like mentally debating whether or not to use his idol, which I thought was absolutely crazy because they've been teasing it in the show and on the edit for weeks now. But despite Hunter being on the bottom of the last vote, and despite Hunter's name being mentioned at this Tribal, he still refrains from using his idol here. The votes are red, and I just know that Hunter's stomach is hurting at this point because it ends up being a tie between him and Q. They all go off to do the revote, where we see that Hunter is inevitably voted out. Now, this wasn't the most shocking outcome to me, especially with his edit during the last episode with him doing all that showboating during the competition. I did really like Hunter and I liked watching him play, but given his comp status and his idol, I think that voting him out was probably the right move to make here. But still, there are probably still better moves to make out there. Like, why hasn't anyone come after Charlie or Moriah yet, especially with those two being so tight? There's not a lot of close groups left in the game. Most people are riding solo dolo, so I think this would have been a good opportunity to get out Moriah and weaken Charlie. I actually think Maria's in the best spot right now. It's just so hard to see her winning because her edit has just been so lackluster. So between the two of them, I'd say that Charlie is just a little bit more likely to win, so I would put him in my top 3 behind Kenzie and Tiffany. Of course, I want to know, what did you all think of this episode? And now that we're starting to get down to the wire, who are your top contenders to win? Let me know in the comments below. My number 1 pick is really going to depend on the outcome of this Kenzie versus Tiffany feud. One of them is going to outplay the other. I just can't tell who that's going to be yet. I can't wait to see what the next episode has in store as we move forward toward the finale. Of course, I'll be back to update y'all when that time comes. But until next time, peace.